Today we begin to rebuild a club that was reformed in 2020, Estrela de Amadora. A club that folded in 2011 due to bankruptcy and was merged with Club Sintra Football. They now play in the second division of Portugal, because these geezers already have one promotion since being reformed.
I like it.
And our task is to topple the big three in Portugal, to become only the 6th team ever to be crowned champions of Portugal. With a slight twist, which we'll get to in a bit. I also want to mention that I won't be signing anybody first season because they already brought in just short of 50 new players this season.
Sorry, what?
Anyway, our best player out of the 100 registered that we have is probably Paulinho, a Portuguese striker just aged 22, which is kind of ironic. Because the twist is that I'm going to attempt to do this challenge without any strikers. I don't mean I can't play Paulinho, I mean no strikers in my tactics. After playing FM for non-stop since it's been released, I want to see new animations, I want to see different goals, and I kind of like the challenge. I may even try and bang out the attackerless too, who knows? Our club vision kind of matches my own. Sign young players, which I always love to do, and end of the current season, finish in the top half. And with the season preview putting us in 3rd place, that should really be achievable. I've set my 3 only scouts out to find first team players, youngsters, and kind of young players for next season. And I went in and I began training Paulinho to play in the number 10 role as an attacking midfielder on attack duty. I am, however, worried that he might leave at the end of the season because he doesn't want to negotiate a new contract. In fact, 8 of my first team players also didn't want to negotiate a new deal, and all of them have 1 year left. Just before the season starts, our owner injected £14 million into the club. Oh yeah, did I mention we've got a sugar daddy? First game of the season against Benfica B team, and we're looking at rocking the 4-3-3 strikerless, which we can adapt as the season goes on. And things started great when we scored the first goal of the match when Ronald picked up the ball and charged towards goal, smashing it in the opener. But Benfica B equalised in the second half through a direct free kick, ending the game 1-1. But from Benfica B to Porto B, we did not perform our best here despite having a good amount of shots and possession. So I thought in the next match we would try the attackerless style. Alright, so I don't want to get ahead of myself, but maybe this is the tactic we move forward with for now, because the result against a good team in this league was pretty promising. As you've seen, Paulinho, our striker, who is currently playing centre midfield, scored the first 2 goals of the game, and not from set pieces, with all the players getting involved. But the last goal I want to highlight the most, because the ball into the space for the winger on the counter-attack and the cutback, we have so many options despite us not having anybody further than centre mid. A draw in the next game showed me it still does need some work, but we had 20 shots and 59% possession, so it's probably that our players suck at shooting. So I put some offers in and got 2 accepted. First alone for Rodrigo Gomez, a former FM favourite who could be great in the 2nd division for pretty much peanuts. And then Vito, we had a bid accepted for this Casapia attacking midfielder, who I think will help create a lot of chances from deep, which is what the tactic really needs. And both players signed, meaning I took the tally to 50 transfers. Neither player scored in the next game despite both playing, but Paulinho did, and we won 1-0. And our fantastic run continued in an away match, next up winning the game 4-0 with 4 different goal scorers, and once again showing that just because you don't have an attacking midfielder or a striker doesn't mean you won't create chances or be in a park the bus tactic. Not to mention, it's so much fun watching your team play through your opponents in attacks. After a dull 0-0 draw with Tondela, we currently sit in 5th place in the league at this very early stage. It's also a perfect time, if you haven't done so already, to make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss the following episodes when they come out a couple of times each week. During October, we won in 2 rounds of the Taça de Portugal, with new signing Vito scoring an absolute perler with his left foot to grab the winner in the 3rd round. And Paulinho continues to learn his new role as an essential midfielder, whilst also continue to do what he does best and find the back of the net. We did, however, go 2 wins and 2 losses in the league during October. And the next round of the cup was drawn, and we got the unlucky tie of Benfica, who broke the deadlock from an outrageous free kick. They couldn't break us down though from open play and scored again from the penalty spot. We ended up scoring a lovely goal down the left from Vito, who found Paulinho, but at 2-1 we gave away another penalty and lost 3-1. And we only had 9 men for the last 10 minutes. We also played Braga in the Allianz Cup and lost 4-2 to them, but we still knocked them out and qualified top of the group. The quarterfinals was as far as we got though, as Portimonense ended our cup dreams, beating us 4-2, which also seemed to have an effect on our league form as well as we enter the new year. Some great news though as we go into January, as Paulinho signs a new contract.
That's my guy! That's my guy!
The board have also given us a lot of money, so I went spending. And yes, I brought another striker in for my strikerless formation. Theo Fonseca is going to be great from either wing or that centre midfield spot next to Paulinho. The positivity transcended on the pitch too as we came back with a 7-0 win. In fact, January included 4 wins from 4, including a fantastic 2-0 away victory against Benfica B team, with that man Paulinho scoring 2 goals in the second half. And that helped us climb into the highest position so far of 3rd place. Paulinho with 10 goals so far this season and Vito with the most assists. But we do have top of the league Porto B-side up next. In what was a fantastic battle where we had over double the amount of shots to Porto, they took the lead with an over-the-top ball. We came back and equalised from a corner just 3 minutes later, but our heads dropped in the same situation, defending a corner in the second half, and we were punished. No excuses for the terrible performance in the following fixture though, just awful. We ended the month with our only win from 4 matches against Trafence. However, the result was a 2-0, but it was the lowest possession I've seen us win with at just 24%, proving that possession does not equal points. But if you've got this far into the video, you clearly believe in this style of tactics, so show me your support by leaving me a comment. In Attackless, we trust. Let's band together for the cause. We only played 2 matches in March, and they were both very different, with the first being a simple 2-0 win with 2 good goals that you would typically see in an attackerless tactic. And straight into a game where we received what I'd say is probably a very much deserved red card when Everton went a little overboard. And then we received a second red card, from which I'd say is a lot less deserved. A very weak second yellow while attacking corners from our centre-back. And as you can see, that left gaps in our defence and we were torn apart pretty easily to concede the first. And then we were overrun at a set piece to concede the second in this 2-0 loss to Tandela. Corners are clearly a weakness for us, as that's exactly how we concede right away in the next game too. Thankfully though, in this match we played a lot better and kept 11 men on the pitch, which allowed us to pull ourselves back into the game through 2 fantastic goals by January signing Fonseca. It was then Paulinho's time to get involved, scoring our 3rd, and to top off this performance, the goalkeeper, who clearly fancies Paulinho, just passed him the ball to score a very easy 4th in a horrendous mistake.
He is atrocious, isn't he?
Now we were back on track with the wins. We need to recover our position in the league with just a handful of games left this season. Nope, we lose 1-0 to Mafra. I think the following match was a perfect example of how it takes time for your players to understand this tactic and their new roles in which you're asking them to play. You need to have that aggressiveness for the mid block to work, and then that burst of energy to make the counter attacks of winning the ball in that area of the field to feel worth it. And that's exactly what we did in this match. We still conceded 3, and it might be something that we have to take a look at, but we did score 5 goals in total and created so many chances it could have been double figures. That had nothing on our next match either, as we put 8 goals past our opponents and dominated the game, holding 56% possession or so. And although the goalkeeper was absolutely stinking in this match, like honestly he played like he didn't have any fingers, we created chances from crazy periods of possession where we turned up the tempo from very slow and progressive passing to lightning quick attacks that the opponents simply couldn't handle. Majority of games I play these 4 players in these positions and fit around who is best suited or fit in other roles, and depending on the opponent I switch from very attacking or just attacking, which I think's been playing off rather well. Occasionally we will rely on a set piece or 2 though. April ended with a frustrating game for us, which ended up feeling like a victory when Fal equalised in the 92nd minute. And we go into the last 4 matches in 4th place. I don't really know however what happens when Porto B wins the league, of course, as they cannot get themselves promoted, so I guess we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. But of course, after I praise how good we are at creating chances, we go and do the opposite and not put a shot on target. We then went and scored an outrageous goal when the ball was played down the left and an early cross was met by Fonseca at the back post. Beautiful. Still lost 3-1 though.
Damn it, Carl!
With our promotion hopes disappearing in front of our eyes, we required a bit of luck, and an early own goal was just what we needed. And from that, we remembered that we were good again and turned it back on, scoring easily. Our 3rd even came from the kickoff after we scored our 2nd. They simply couldn't handle our press, and Vito made it 3. Before half-time, again hounding their defence, we stole the ball back and made it 4-0 with just 1 game left, that we needed to win. And on that final day of the season, we cut our opponents open within 5 minutes and Gustavo Henrique scored an outrageous curler to put us 1-0 up. But defensively, we were a nightmare and gifted them an equaliser when we were comfortably in control of the ball. Thankfully, a penalty allowed us to regain the lead. And finally, it was of course Paulinho who confirmed the vital 3 points, which puts us, as it stands, in the promotion playoff, where we will have to play Portimonense from the division above across 2 legs to gain promotion and ultimately relegating them. Yes, that's the saying, Portimonense, who knocked us out of the Allianz Cup quarter-finals. And things couldn't have started better because we won ourselves a penalty in the first half in the away leg.
He's bloody missed it!
Some things are just typical in life, aren't they? As after we missed a penalty, a player with the same name as our team name then scored in the 54th minute. Thankfully though, to give us a great deal of optimism in the second leg, we scored a deflected equaliser in the 89th minute. But the second leg was another game we decided not to show up, and after our keeper had already made 7 saves, he couldn't quite keep out Cariello's shot on the hour mark. However, yet again, a hero emerged and substitute Guzman finally hit the net for us, and the tie went to extra time and penalties. But this time it was a Portimonense player who missed a crucial penalty when Brigido made the save. And following that, it was in our hands and our players showed fantastic composure, and somehow we won the penalty shootout, sending this newly formed Estrela Amadora side into the top division of Portugal, in what the media is already calling an unexpected promotion. And the board have decided to reward us with a very healthy transfer kitty to take into next season, which is a good job really, because so many of these players are not going to be good enough in the next step up in quality. And I'm probably going to have to tweak this tactic a lot for it to function correctly against the big boys of Portuguese football. So again, make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss the next episode. If it is out, I'll pop it up on the screen right now. Thank you very much. In our first season, we adopted a very bizarre tactic. It somehow carried us to a 4th place finish, but because Porto B won the league and cannot be promoted, we played in the promotion playoff and won on penalties.
That tastes like promotion!
And our sugar daddy owners gave us a respectable top flight budget. I'm also quite shocked about how many of you in the comments let me know that this is actually your local team. So it is my duty to take this reformed club above the big 3 in Portugal, starting off with some better training facilities. And signings are coming in the door immediately. At just 22, this guy is a perfect addition for our squad, a player who can chip in on both wings with a good amount of flair and pace. It did start to worry me though when the board added a ton of new expectations for the club vision. And our next signing was a Portuguese left-footed centre-back in Pedro Ganchas for just 700k. I decided to make some tactical changes for a much tougher season, starting off with the wing-backs. I put them on support instead of an attack duty, with the roaming playmaker I've made into a half-back. I also changed the mentality into just attacking, and a couple of tweaks in the instructions include an early crossing and running at the defence. I then signed my best acquisition yet on a free transfer, albeit his wages are double what the player who gets paid the most at the club already is, but Carlos Vigaray is an amazing right back who will fit our methods perfectly. And he was closely followed by our new #1 goalkeeper who we signed from Braga B team. Michael Zappa then came in on a free, and the squad is starting to take place with just a few more positions really need to be filled. But the new season started with the Allianz Cup second phase match, in which Zappa managed to get on the score sheet with 2 goals on his debut. But he wasn't the only one, as our new centre-back Ganchas, who is a threat from set pieces, scored not 1 but 2 goals from set plays to secure a 4-2 win. More signings and improvements came through though, as we signed Lucas Barros from Gil Vicente, as well as Kickass, who is going to be our next project in adopting our system in centre midfield. The likes to beat the offside trap is always good when running in from deep. And just like that, it was into the league fixtures, starting with a 4-2 away win, with 2 goals being scored by another new addition on loan from Benfica, João Neves, just 18 years of age. And if things go well, we have £2.2 million buy option in his contract. Our last bit of business was our best of the summer though, bringing in Davide Batella from Monza for just £4 million, a quality young defender. Meaning we spent a total of £6.5 million while transferring out 325k worth of players. Some more familiar names got themselves on the score sheet in the next match, with Vito bagging the first, followed by last season's top scorer Paulinho, who outjumped the defense and goalkeeper to score our second in a 2-1 win against Gil Vicente. Just to give you an idea what our best 11 looks like, with a lot of the summer transfers replacing old faces from last season. I forgot to mention I also made Gustavo Enriquez's loan spell a permanent transfer for just 78k. 2 wins from 2 so far, who knows, we could push for a place in Europe next year.
You're unbearably naive.
Okay, 2 bad results. We then faced Braga in the Allianz Cup third round and conceded in the first minute. But we still got ourselves a draw with Lucas Barros' header in the second half. And this propelled us into the next match, where we defeated Maritomo 1-0 through Gustavo Enriquez's goal. Our first test against the Big Three this season, and Sporting ripped us open and Pedro Gonçalves scored. But Paulinho scored the second. Unfortunately, it was Paulinho in a Sporting shirt and not ours, and we lost 2-0.
Damn it, Carl!
And we followed the Sporting game with an away trip to Braga, where João Neves opened the scoring. This time, it was the Paulinho in the Estrella shirt who got on the score sheet, making it 2-0 to the underdogs. And in the second half, the same lad made it 3-0. In stoppage time, would you believe it, Paulinho scored his hat-trick and our 4th of the match from the spot. I think I just have to show you to make it believable. That's how good we are right now. And we followed it with a 10-0 win in the cup. Unfortunately, when we came up against Benfica, we couldn't continue the outstanding performances, and they very much humbled us, scoring 3 goals to our 0 in a very dominating performance. But we need to remember, we are newly promoted and not expected to be doing anything other than trying to survive. The rest of the month including 3 wins, with 2 being in other cup competitions. But we are still 4th in the league, which after 9 games is great for us, but pulling Porto this early in the cup is a shame. In that Porto Cup match, we did ourselves no favours defensively and gifted them the first goal very early into the game. But Vito's free kick found the head of Zappa and we were back in the tie, until Gabriel Veron gave Porto the lead for the second time in the 64th minute, and they secured their progression to the 6th round when Otavio scored a quality free kick. Back in the league, and we are still picking up good results like this comfortable 2-0 win against Casapia, albeit with 2 goals from set pieces. It was a bit more of a struggle against Rio Ave, although Vagaray found Vito in the first half with a brilliant deep cross. But Rio Ave came back right after half-time with an equaliser, but then Vito once again opened up their defence to find the run of Paulinho, who made no mistake with his finish. As we go into the new year, you can already see how well our new team is gelling together well already, with only 3 players from last season surviving in this 11. This has been a dream start. However, could the dream be over sooner than we thought, because there are takeover rumours already.
Oh, God!
This idea of the owners selling was backed up by the fact they didn't add anything to the transfer budget. An early fixture in January was a difficult loss to Sporting from a 76th minute winner. In the first game of the month though, it was a perfect performance from our talisman Paulinho, who is still scoring lots of goals despite the step up in league quality. Scoring a hat-trick in what was predator finishes in this 4-1 win, just what you want from your striker, or centre midfielder in this case. His mate and our loanee from Benfica, João Neves, stole the headlines soon after though with a lovely brace and a comfortable 2-0 win, and we were back on track with European football starting to creep into question again. Then we go and lose to Famalicão. With 2 games against Porto up next, it was good that we bounced back with a win. And somehow, with a lucky rebound, we actually take the lead against Porto away from home, but just a minute later, Dani Ceballos scored the equaliser. And a sucker punch in the second half as Porto took the lead through last season's league top scorer Tony Martinez. Come off the man, come off Paulinho though, as he strikes back with an equaliser of his own in the 75th minute. But a 92nd minute goal was looming. Thankfully, this goal, the winner of the match, was struck by the boot of Paulinho. Well, we beat them once, can we beat them in the semi-final at the Allianz Cup? What a semi-final this was as well. Uribe catching a perler for Porto was the only goal of the first half. The man on loan from Benfica made a fantastic run though, and Paulinho found him to level the scoring. But instantly, Porto scored again through Brereton Diaz, who signed on a free transfer from Blackburn. On the 85th minute mark though, Paulinho once again played a through ball, this time finding Vito, and a deflected shot looped up high and dropped into the net. However, once again, Porto wasn't done and Diaz scored a second in the 89th minute. But then the clock read 96 minutes and we have one last attack, the ball to Paulinho, who unselfishly laid it off, who hit home the equaliser. This game went all the way to penalties and Diaz, who had already scored 2, missed the first penalty. And a few successful penalties later being dispatched for both teams, Porto's other striker, Tony Martinez, also missed his. But we kept scoring and veteran midfielder Alosio scored the winning penalty, sending us into the final of the Allianz Cup, which was to be played just 3 days later against Benfica, who haven't won this competition for 8 years. And I think we were still tired from the highs of the Porto semi-final, and we were tonked in the final against Benfica. We rested up though and then came back home to put 5 past Vizela, and we kept pushing with another 2 wins back to back. Did we push too much though, because we failed then to win the next 3 matches, which, going by our form, should be very winnable games. And yet, without those 7 points, we still sit in 3rd place above champions Porto. Another match against Braga and another phenomenal performance from Estrella. Paulinho, of course, the scorer of the first 2 goals of the game, but Braga did give us a bit of a worry when they halved our lead through Sousa. But then, with quality movement from the flank, Samuel Pedro cut inside and lost his defender to slot in a third for a 3-1 win, followed by another 3-0 win against former Portuguese champions Boa Vista away from home, before being brought right back down to earth once again by Benfica, who are really running away with the league title already. Another example of how you can score some beautiful goals using the attackerless tactic, and I really enjoyed watching both of our wingers get on the score sheet, almost playing as inside forwards. Passos de Ferreira did pull one back through a tie in the 80th minute, but João Neves picked up a third of the match to get all 3 points. It's such a shame that it was our only win during April, but in the top 3 just out of reach with 3 games remaining. Any kind of European qualification would be amazing, but staying above Braga would be insane, and a win in our next match puts us on course to do just that in this 2-1 victory. Braga also win though and keep the pressure on, and they followed up with another win, this time 2-0 away from home. But what Braga can do, we can also, as an away trip of our own left us with smiles as Vito scored 2 goals in a 2-0 victory heading into the final day.
I'm not feeling the pressure, no. You cannot put pressure on me, no chance.
However, our final day opponents was Porto, but things started great when we caught the second ball high up the pitch and João Neves scored with just 4 minutes played. But Porto, who remember, are champions, are looking for payback after multiple bad performances against us, and Tony Martinez draws them level. And maybe we ran out of steam just a tad too early. Porto score once again and we lose on the final day. But it must have been our lucky day as Braga also lose. And somehow we finish in 4th place and qualifying for the Europa League next season. Absolutely incredible from the team, especially the 2 top scorers Paulinho and João Neves. Hopefully that season is enough for us to persuade this guy to join us permanently. However, we only have £5 million to spend next season. I'll see you then. Last season, our first in the top flight, we managed to shock the whole of Portugal, finishing in 4th. Even without playing an attacking midfielder or a striker. Only enough for the supporters to give us a B+ though.
Come on, man!
And we were about to lose 8 first-team players whose contracts were about to expire. We do, of course, have the option to sign João Neves though. But that £2.2 million would come out with our just £5 million budget. But I still think it's worth doing it for the 19-year-old who scored 18 goals last season. Also, side note about Kick-Ass. Estrella actually signed him in real life to replace Paulinho in January.
Really?
The next bit of transfer business was securing some free transfers, including this talented striker and this very versatile midfielder from PSG's second team. And around the same time, João Neves also agreed to join us permanently from Benfica. But I had my eyes on 2 more Portuguese wonder kids. First off, Eduardo Quaresma joins us from Sporting for £1.4 million, a good defender that can hopefully develop some more with first team football. And from Porto, on loan with a mandatory future fee of just 800k, Romario Barrow. Both guys were big wonder kids in previous renditions of Football Manager, but are still good enough for our first team. However, I spent the most money on Enes Salih, a Romanian midfielder aged just 18 years old with incredible physicals. He joins us for £2.3 million, which pretty much fulfilled all of our transfer budget this summer. And this hopefully gives us a lot more variety, or in some circumstances, improve our first 11. But as we roll into our first game of the season, there are 4 players who are missing the opening fixture, and it was against Porto. So the squad did look a little different, but it was still strong, and I decided to start Gustavo Henrique, as Enes Salih match sharpness was very low, and the wing is not really where you can ignore that. And the 4-4-2 of Porto caught us just 8 minutes in with a long ball over the top for Tony Martinez to score. As I mentioned, stamina down the wings is important, and this was proven when Henrique made great things happen when faced up against 2 opponents, finding the wrong of the other winger, Samuel Pedro. And we had a chance 25 minutes in to go 2-1 up from the penalty spot by new signing Ryan May.
He's bloody missed it! What a prat!
But his blushes were saved because after taking a second half corner, Samuel Pedro retrieved the ball and decided to score the winner himself. Unfortunately, against Boavista, after going behind twice and then taking the lead, they equalised in the 93rd minute to make it 3-3. And then we lost at home 1-0. Our form has not been great.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
Now, we don't have any money right now, but if the board do happen to give us any throughout the season, I'll be going for striker João Resende from Benfica. But right now, we don't even have a penalty to scratch ourselves with. After picking up a couple of starts, Enes Salih finally got on the score sheet twice in one game with 2 excellent finishes from the right side of midfield. This is still Paulinho's playground though, as he scored a hat-trick. I haven't actually mentioned it yet, but of course we qualified for the Europa League and our fixtures were in, and with a couple of tricky matches against fairly big European clubs. But our first game ever in the competition was against a Slovakian side, and it was an absolute walk in the park as we dominated the game, scoring 3 goals away from home, with 2 goals being scored by Paulinho. Back in Portugal, and Enes Salih continued his great run of form, assisting Vito in a home win against Famalicão. This game ended 2-0 with the second goal being scored by Paulinho and set up by the first goal scorer Vito. However, we are still in danger of silly points being dropped, and again it was an injury time equaliser. A trip to Transnistria though, and it's another away win in the Europa League, followed by a 1-0 win at home to Copenhagen. And it was around this time we started playing cup fixtures too in the Taça de Portugal and the Allianz Cup. Even after all these wins, we couldn't beat the 10 men of Portimonense, even after going 1-0 up as well. We took our first loss in the Europa League against Premier League side Leicester City, and it was the attacking midfielder who caused us so much trouble scoring a hat-trick, with one being from the spot and another from a direct free kick. Damn you, James Maddison. It was a very different game against Nice though, who visited from France in the next Europa League fixture. Although we initially took the lead, they did equalise just 8 minutes later. But in the second half, we were fantastic and Samuel Pedro put in an excellent second goal. An absolute calamity though by Nice, as the defender and goalkeeper both fumbled the ball so Paulinho could put it into the empty net. With another win in the league and cup, we actually sit in second place, albeit some way off Benfica in first. Europa League phase, we are looking good for qualification, and we're still in both cups for now. As we rode into December, Gil Vicente was on the receiving end of our latest victory, and with 2 very well taken goals by 2 players who maybe haven't seen as much game time this season as they did last in Enrique and Zappa. Although the regular names have still been scoring too. Casapia put up a fight against us in the league after Paulinho put us ahead by securing himself a penalty and scoring it. But summer signing Romario Barrow found himself high at the pitch and his shot was squeezed in. And we successfully kept Casapia at bay, of course, by giving Paulinho another chance to score, who seems to be getting better and better, scoring 12 goals in 12 so far this season. Unfortunately, our only Europa League match this month ended in a terrible 4-1 home defeat and 10 men. Into January, and the board have not increased the budget, so that's no João Resende for now. Speaking of Benfica, or their players at least, we played them twice in January in both the league and cup, and despite us taking a 2-1 lead in the league fixture with 2 goals from João Neves, their former player, we lost the match when Dani Olmo scored the winner. It was a much more one-sided affair in the cup match as they knocked us out in the 6th round thanks to 2 goals from João Mario, with us only managing to score 1, once again from João Neves. We did however beat Sporting 1-0 in an awful game which had one incredible strike from Vito. A win against Rennes in Europa League is exactly what we needed to. It put us back in the top 8 automatic qualifiers with just 1 game left against Lille of France. Domestically, we still sit in 2nd place, but Porto can overtake us if they win their game in hand. We played terribly against Lille, but somehow we managed to secure 3 points when Romario Barro squeezed in a very long-range effort.
Get in!
However, for the 3rd time in just 3 weeks, we crossed paths with Benfica and once again lost in the Allianz Cup semi-final.
Damn it, Carl!
And we followed that with only 2 wins from 5 in the league. The Europa League draw also gave us an extremely tricky tie against Valencia. The league title fight is all but over for us, but the fight for 2nd is still very much achievable if we pick up our form in the final third of the season. Not a great start from being 3-0 up with just 21 minutes to go.
I'm gonna break my monitor, I swear!
And that ain't good either. Oh, that's much better. Nope, never mind. In the first leg of our Europa League tie, it was just a penalty that separated us in the away leg. The Spanish side is a better team overall, but it's just silly mistakes that made the difference in the 2nd leg, with them scoring 2 goals from defensive errors in the first half. We did find Vito in the 2nd half with a beautiful ball over the top and a great finish eventually, but it was just too late. I mean, it's not bad for our first season in Europe. I definitely would have taken that. And at least we are still challenging to get our spot back next year in the league too, sat in 3rd place. We definitely have Sporting's numbers. Once again, we comfortably beat them 2-0 away from home. We are just their bogey team, it seems. And 2 back-to-back wins would be promising for a 2nd place finish. But ideally, we would need to beat Porto to overtake them in the league. So with their opener late in the 2nd half, that task has become rather tricky. We did end up scoring minutes after taking the kickoff from an outrageous goal by Paulinho, but that's how the match ended with a 1-1 draw.
I'm a fighter and not a quitter.
But I still believe we can do it. Come on, boys. Never mind. We actually went unbeaten in our last 6 matches, only dropping 2 points. And that kept us in 3rd place comfortably in a league of our own really, with Benfica only losing 1 game all season. But catching them is going to be very difficult when our board is giving us less money than last year. However, I have just secured the signing of a fantastic new wonder kid for next season on a free transfer. In our 3rd season, we finished in 3rd place. And our first season in Europe, we reached the round of 16. But of course, I mentioned we signed a new wonder kid. From Montpellier, on a free transfer, we have Ilya Wahi joining us for this upcoming season. The French striker will fit right into our attackerless tactic.
No regret.
I also couldn't help myself and I bid for João Resende from Benfica. Finally. And he signed for just £1 million. Reason why I wanted him so bad is because he is both good at finishing as well as passing, and he tries killer balls often, which suits trying to pick out deep runs from our players in this tactic. Of course, we cannot forget that Romario Barro signed on a permanent deal as well after a great season on loan. And that was all the signings we had before the first league fixture of the year against Portimonense. But it was not a good start to our season and they ripped us open in the first half, scoring a great team goal. Thankfully, we continued to fight back and scored through João Neves in the 82nd minute. But it was not good enough from us. The performance was terrible and Portimonense scored a winner. All good teams bounce back though, and that's exactly what we did at home, winning the next game 2-0 thanks to goals from brand new signing João Resende and Pedro Ganchas in the 2nd half. And we followed that with a 3-0 win and a very dominant performance. Some terrible defending though led to us falling behind against Estoril.
Red card.
In fact, there were 2 red cards in this match and neither of them were directed at our players, which really helped pull our fingers out, and we came back from 1-0 down to take the lead and even score an impressive 3rd goal by Paulinho. So despite the initial loss on the first day of the season, we still sit in 2nd place, 3 points behind the only team that did beat us in the league. Fixtures are in for the Europa League and it's all very winnable games, maybe except from the home game against Arsenal. But of course, we started off by welcoming Montpellier to Portugal and João Resende got his first European goal for us on his European debut. And we secured a lovely 2-0 win when Batella bagged in the 2nd half. Our next game in the Europa League was even better because João Resende got himself a hat-trick, and a fantastic one with that. With 3 quality finishes, we seen out the game with a 4-1 win against Maccabi Haifa, and so far our European journey is off to a perfect start. Back to the league, and we are struggling to score goals against 10 men. Duh. Although saying that, in the next league game, once again, our angry opponents got frustrated with our attackless formation and got another red card. This time though, we broke them down fairly easily and picked up the 2-0 win. It isn't all great though, we did get stuffed by Porto. And then when Arsenal came to visit, they pretty much walked through us with some great passing play for both of their goals, and we were completely unable to do anything at the other end. First loss in the Europa League. We even struggled against 3rd division side and only beating them in the cup because of 2 extra time goals. It doesn't get any better either. I thought against Benfica we were mounting a counter-attack, but no, instead we were setting them up to take the lead instead. We equalised 10 minutes later thanks to a Resende penalty against his old club, but my old friend from a previous series, Oscar Gluck, then scored the winner in a 2-1 defeat. We followed that with another loss to Braga.
I just want it to stop.
Thankfully, in Europa League, it was much better for us. Kind of. We needed a bit of luck to get back to winning ways to progress in the cup again, and in the form of an own goal. We took advantage of this and scored a second and ran away with 3 points. Thankfully, we could take that into our next league match, and we started to recoup the lost points from previous matches with another win against Gil Vicente. It was also good to see Enes Sali get on the score sheet in this match too after his very quiet season so far. Ilya Wahi then put us 1-0 up against Rio Ave, and you think it would be business as usual, but no, we are still creating hiccups for ourselves and defending poorly, allowing them to equalise.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be
We got the same result in the Allianz Cup against Portimonense. Thankfully, back in Europa League, we did pick up 3 points against Hungarian side Ferencváros in a 3-2 victory. We scored some good goals and even took a 3-0 lead with Romario Barrow's goal being my favourite of the bunch. And in the Cup, we also progressed, winning 5-0 with João Neves scoring a lovely hat-trick against Tondela, who once again was reduced to 10 men when one of their players received a straight red card. I'm just glad it's not one of our players. We actually really struggled against one of the teams close to the relegation zone in December, and they took the lead with just 4 minutes gone. And once again, we were relying on João Neves being the guy to drag us back into the game, while he dispatched a penalty to give us the lead, but AC Vasu equalised with just 20 minutes left. Thankfully though, the ball was then played to Samuel Pedro, whose first time shot hit the post, and look who it was to give us the 3 points.
That's my guy! That's my guy!
But we are still some way off the title charge after 12 games, with the league having a bit of a surprise at the top from what we are used to. And we are in a good position to automatically qualify for the next stage of the Europa League. In January, I headed into the transfer list and I was shocked to see Thiago Tomás at Sporting on the list, and I had to put in a bid right away. Just £1.6 million is a bargain. It is another striker, but he is so good, especially for that price. He featured off the bench from the first match, a game in which we won 5-1. But he did get his start the game after against Portimonense. However, he is obviously still getting used to his bizarre tactic and didn't get on the score sheet for this 2-0 win. The important thing is that we're still winning thanks to a 92nd minute winner here. But he finally scored his first goal in the Taça de Portugal victory, so hopefully there's no stopping him now. Unfortunately, his old team Sporting stopped him by completely shutting us out and beating Estrela 2-0, with Tomás putting in just a 6.1 rating. Awful. So I decided to try something new with 2 attacking midfielders on support. And we lose the next match in the Europa League, and in the home tie against top of the league.
Damn it, Carl!
Thankfully, we did win the next Europa League tie using this tactic. But I still decided to revert back to the original attackless tactic, but change some of the instructions to help us keep the ball better. Some bad news though, as Vigorai has picked up a 3-month injury. The loss in the Champions League meant we dropped down into the playoff round of the competition, where we came up against a very difficult Lille side who picked up the only goal in the first leg. In the second leg, we did bring ourselves back into the tie through a very lucky own goal, but with just 2 minutes before extra time, Lille caught us out and Angel Gomez eliminated us from the competition. February also included 6 league games which were crammed in, which we did win 4 but lost 2 to Famalicão and Porto. And we of course drew Benfica in the semi-final of the Cup, and in the 2-legged affair we actually took the lead through Thiago Tomás, but Benfica, being the home side, pushed forward, creating a lot of chances and equalised, sending us into the second leg 1 apiece. We then faced them immediately after in the league, and we lost to them 2-0. go. Out of the 4 league games we had in March, we only picked up 1 win, which was this 4-0 victory against Boa Vista, with 2 of the goals coming from corner set pieces as well. The final one came from Thiago Tomas finding himself in some space when the ball was cut back for him around the penalty spot to smash in the 4th. But the 2 draws in the next following 2 matches were very detrimental to our league standing, and we currently sit in 7th now. The loss in the following match against Rio Ave makes me question whether our players have truly given up on the league. Although after a bit of rollicking, we record 3 wins right before the second leg at the semi-final. And this is still Benfica, and despite us being at home still, they are still dominant, and I can't even remember if we've actually beaten them at all yet this series. They knock us out, winning the second leg 2-0. And of course, we unfortunately followed that up with a draw against Boa Vista, who again sit in the relegation zone. We still find ourselves pushing for a spot in the Europa League, however. But with 2 tricky matches left, including Sporting, we needed to be at our best, which is exactly what we were, as we soaked up all of the pressure they gave us and came out as 2-0 victors on the day. On the final day, however, just returning back from injury, Vigaray gets himself a straight red card. We then held on to the 0-0 up until the second half, but our opponents were too strong eventually, and after the first goal went in, the second wasn't too far behind, and the third was inevitable. It was still a 5th place finish for us, so European football is still there next season. We really struggled to find a goal scorer this season, which has been pretty much our main problem, despite signing loads of strikers, and Paulinho only getting 9 goals this season. But would you believe it? The board have decided to sack me, so I guess our journey in Portugal comes to a rather abrupt end. Mission failed.